Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm just checking over here and making sure that you guys are coming in over here. Looks like you are. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you to the Vet Talk team for putting this webinar on today. My name is Dr. Caitlin DeWilde. I'm a veterinarian in St. Louis. I'm a practicing veterinarian, but I also am a digital marketer. So I own a company called The Social DVM, and we help veterinary practices learn how to market and do a better job of communicating with their clients. And Vet Talk today, our sponsor, is one of the few groups that when I am at a conference, I walk through a lot of expo halls. I see a lot of new companies coming to market and a lot of people trying to do really cool things. And Vet Talk was one of the first ones that I stopped and was like, okay, this is different. This is cool. And they are one of the groups that can really help us do a better job of communicating with our clients. So I was definitely interested in learning about what they're doing, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. But what we're primarily focusing on is pharmacy marketing. A lot of us in the vet clinic, just hate dealing with the prescription process. We hate dealing with it when clients are asking for a written script, or we hate it when Walgreens or Walmart is inevitably calling us and wanting an NPI number that we've never had. It's just a frustrating process. And of course, all the back and forth with emails and things like that. And none of us love dealing with the headaches that come with prescriptions outside of our clinic, but we also don't love losing the revenue. So there's a middle ground that we need to find and that we want to try to overcome so that we are dealing with this and ultimately keeping our clients happy and getting our patients the medications that they need. So I am a big believer in proactive pharmacy marketing and adjusting some of the workflows. So we're going to be talking about that today. And if you guys have any questions, I'm occasionally going to look over here on my other monitor just to make sure if there's any questions coming in, or feel free to drop questions in the Q&A. I will answer all of them at the end. So without further ado, let's get started. So when we talk about pharmacies and prescriptions and the whole thing, it matters to a lot of people. It, of course, matters to our clients because they want to get in and get out and get their pet taken care of. It matters to the patient, obviously, who needs that medication. And it matters for our veterinary teams. It matters from a stress level standpoint, but it also matters from a revenue standpoint. So it's important that we acknowledge all three groups as we're moving forward. Now, the players, when we're talking about this, most of the time, veterinary professionals think about, okay, we have in-house pharmacy, the meds that we can fill and hand you today before you even leave. And then we think about the dreaded, evil, big box guys that we're not going to talk about, right? But we often forget another group, so to speak, and that is your clinic, but online. So many clients will fill medications through the pharmacy, and whether that's your clinic's pharmacy that is fulfilled by a third party, or even your clinic's pharmacy that they submit an online request and it's still filled and picked up locally. A lot of times we miss that online component. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move through. The key takeaway is just like a PIMS or a communication platform or a iPhone or any software you buy, there is not one size fits all option. What works for my clinic might not work for yours, might not work for somebody zooming in from another location. Everybody's softwares, workflows, clinics, clients are a little different, which is a good thing, honestly. But it means that all the things we're going to talk about today, some of them may apply to you, some of them may not. So the goal is for you to try to pick out the pieces that will. And hopefully I'll help you make that decision. All right. So when we think about making the pharmacy a little more usable, we want to make it better for everybody. We're going to talk about that in a couple of key factors. So accessibility, messaging, obviously the marketing, my favorite part, and of course the workflows, which from my practice brain, that's also very important. So let's start with accessibility. When you think about what works at your clinic, how easy is it for clients at your practice to start a new medication? Most practices, that's pretty easy, right? Because we think, okay, your pet presents for a need, your doctor prescribes a medication. Most of the time, you have at least an initial amount to get them started. But when we think about refilling, how easy is that? How accessible is your practice to doing that? And the example I give is we're unfortunately battling against the human pharmacy industry. I know you'll all be shocked. I am a aged Labrador, and I'm hypothyroid, so I have to take a thyroid medication every day. No big deal. Target will text me before I run out and say, "Hey, your prescription's about ready to run out. Would you like us to refill?" Just text back the letter C to confirm. They contacted me before I even knew I was out or going to be out, and I literally just have to text back one letter and then boom, my prescription is refilled. So humans are used to that proactivity, that accessibility. And unfortunately, for a lot of veterinary practices, and even my own, it's not that easy. Somebody has to call on a phone and talk to a person, or they have to figure out when they can pick it up, which is maybe only between 9 and 5 on work days, or maybe they only realize that they are out at 11 o'clock at night and they have to remember to handle this the next day because we have no online accessibility. So when we think about those things, it's kind of understandable why some people will turn to an online or big box store because they have that convenience. And I can't always judge them for that. They're trying to keep their pet on medication, and we often forget the root of what of their actions is because they're trying to get their pets the medication that they need. So how do we make that a little more accessible? So the first thing is, do they know it's an option? I'm always baffled, especially this is like a new pet owner situation, but you'll say, okay, your pet has a cold or whatever the condition is, we're going to start them on medication, and they're like, oh, can I get that here? Like they're very excited that they don't have to go to another pharmacy to pick it up. So that is one area we are beating the human industry. But do they even know for refills if it's a chronic medication, arthritis medication, skin or allergy things? Do they know we have options for them refilling it in the practice, coming in and getting it, or online? Do they even know? Do we talk about this? The answer is generally, in my experience, no. We're not doing a good job of telling them our options to refill this. Number two, can they find it? When they go to your website, most of us bury that under like resources 7 tabs down. They're not finding it. How do they get to the refill section? Is it weird? Is it like 10 steps to get into it? People have the attention span of a goldfish. We got to give it to them and give it to them easily. And can they use it when and how they want it? Which for a lot of people may be number one, after we're closed, because they also work and they're not getting their ability to look into these things until after hours. And how? There are a lot of people who do not like talking on the phone, who do not like making a call. They want to text, they want to email, they want to shop online. That's okay. That's their preference. Are we meeting them where they're at? So when we think about this, how do we overcome some of these things? So we've got some do's and don'ts. Obviously the do's in green here. Let's talk about refilling their very first time in the exam room. Hey, we're going to get you this medication today. If it works and your pet's doing well and we decide to continue it, you have a couple of options for refilling. You can call us, you can email, you can go on this website, you can do X, Y, and Z. Whatever your practice is, tell them in the exam room. Can we make it more accessible in terms of hours? If you can only accept refill requests between business hours, you are limiting to less than half of the hours in the week. So if you think about normal practices are open, 8 to 5, 9 to 6, maybe a couple hours on Saturday, that's still less than half of the hours of the week that you are unable to take refill requests if someone needs them. So how can we make that a little bit more 24/7? Whether that's a form or if you're using a communication platform, do you have a chat widget? Are you being proactive about some of your options for sending this in an online manner? Talk more about that later, but think about your hours of availability. What are your options? Is calling the only option? If it is, that's a problem. We need to be accessible from a text, a phone, a computer situation. How can we set expectations? Now, Expectations, I have a little bit of a soapbox of, and again, my clinic has been guilty of doing this as well. But, I talked about how easy it is for me to get my medication from Target. Most of the time we set and we had to do this a lot during COVID, so I'm not blaming us, but we haven't changed. We haven't adjusted. And the expectation is you can only call during business hours, and we're gonna tell you that you can pick that up in 3 to 7 days. Okay, we need at least 48 hours for the doctor to approve this. Okay, that's a barrier. That's a several. We know people don't call in advance. They call when they're out. So this is an issue. I'm not saying we have to fill it immediately, but when we put those barriers in place, that's a turnoff for a lot of people. They don't get that flack from an online form, so it's a little bit different. So what are the expectations? If they are 24 hours, that's fine. Have that conversation the first time in the exam room. Okay, so setting those expectations can help because otherwise people expect that instant service. And then let's think outside the box. There are a couple clinics that we work with across the country that do a lot of interesting things. Some of them have even used DoorDash to deliver medication. Some of them have a pharmacy prescription window. Some of them have I swear I don't work for Target. I have things to think about Target, but when you know how you can pull in and drive up to pick up, some clinics are doing that. Are there other options that we can make this easier for people? Another clinic has a lockbox, so if somebody wants to pick up locally, they can do that, get their medication safely, even after the clinic is closed. So there's a lot of good options there. Things we don't want to do. We don't want to add these barriers. We don't want to make it hard for them to get medication. We don't want to shame them. Oh, you're out now. We all do. We think it in our heads, but sometimes we verbalize it too. So maybe toning that down a little bit. They're trying to get the medication their pet needs. Always remember that. So if we're giving them crap about how long it took them to call us or why they waited, or now, it's going to be a big inconvenience for us to fill it quickly, that's shaming them and that's not helping. So we need to kind of ixnay that. We don't want to give conflicting info. This is hard in clinics, but the vet might say one thing and then the front desk or the text note, that's not how it works. So make sure everyone's on the same page with whatever the specifics are at your clinic. We don't want to deter and delay. We don't want to make it 3 to 5 business days to get their medications. And then we don't want to never talk about it or make it hidden on our website. So we're going to talk about marketing and how to place this in an easy way. Okay, so messaging is another big factor we need to consider. Do we even talk to clients to encourage them to shop with us, either in person and refilling locally, or even using our online pharmacy? A lot of people are willing to purchase from their veterinarian, they just don't know about it. So, how do we talk to them about that? There is some degree of, depending on your state, depending on your practice, depending on the pharmacies you work with, of do you have to have a written prescription? Do you charge for something? What do you say to the people that want to shop online? I get it. There's a lot of tricky messaging in there, and it's unfortunately a little bit different based on your specific state. So it's important to balance that responsibility. AVMA, if you scan this QR code, has a really great resource on it that talks about how some of the talking points we need to say to our clients so they understand why we maybe don't recommend some of the online pharmacies, why maybe we need to try to keep that business where our veterinarians can be aware of best practices and that particular patient's prescriptions. But the point is, whatever is appropriate for your state, it's important that your whole team knows. We do recommend our pharmacy because XYZ. We don't recommend filling it online because XYZ. So have a policy, whatever that's going to be, and have phone scripts because sometimes people just don't know what to say when they're asked. And it doesn't mean they have to read something, but just if they need it, they know what should be said. And then some of these proactive workflows we're going to be talking through will hopefully limit this, but keep that in mind. But know that that AVMA resource is there. The key takeaway here is that your messaging should be yours. It's important that your team knows what is right for your clinic and your patients. So make that messaging specific to you. Let's talk a little bit about what our clients actually want. So we do know that clients do want an online pharmacy. Okay, so in this particular graph, the blue is the people that 20%-ish, 19% already have that. 48% are not receiving information about a veterinary clinic's online pharmacy, but wish they could. That's a huge percentage that we're missing out on. And then another 33 say not receiving and don't need. So the funny thing to me is, okay, A, we have a huge opportunity that clients do want this access from us and not from a big box store. But even this 33%, I have a hard time believing that they are not receiving and don't need. I have a hard time believing they're not receiving it specifically because most veterinary clinics have this. We just don't talk about it. We don't talk about our online pharmacies. So, how do we get over that? That's coming. Now, this is another study that I thought was really great too, because clients also, over 60%, they want that reminder of prescriptions needed, number one, but they also want the link to buy them. So they want to buy from us and they want it to be easy and to come to their phone and they can click and take care of it and be done. So that is a link to buy them means online access. It does not mean making that phone call. It does not mean coming back into the clinic. We need to make sure that we're giving them these online access points. 63% of pet owners want that. Okay, so when we're talking about the messaging, what are some things we should include? So we are not going to be able to beat the big box all the time on pricing. We are not going to be able to beat them on customer support and 24/7 chats and all of that. We can't do that. But what we can do is our veterinarians will make sure that this is appropriate for your pet because we know your pet and the other medications and conditions that they're on. We can make sure that it is the appropriate and safely stored and handled, not at the feed store in a hot fridge kind of thing. So focus on what you can offer. Reiterate that you are uh, supporting a local business, economy, and people. Most people want to shop locally and support their local communities and local small businesses. Most people want to do that. They just don't because of the convenience. So if we can remind them that this is a supporting a local business, that can be helpful. Stress those integrations. Well, if you buy online, we don't have a record of when you got it or when it was picked up or when it was filled or what you ordered. So if you're using an online pharmacy or picking up locally, that will all be integrated. Your pet will have one medical record that shows everything that their pet is on. Whatever the conveniences you offer make sure you play that out. So if you have, after hours pickup, if you have the window, if you have the, online pay kind of thing, if you have anything that's convenient, talk about that. Okay. And use templates so that you're always having a consistent message if you are giving them good or bad information. Hey, we can't refill this today because your pet hasn't been seen in the last year. So it's always consistent, it's clear, it's concise, and professional. And then try to provide a great experience. Again, if we get calls of somebody is saying, "Oh, my pet's out. I'm so sorry. I need this medication. We're going out of town." If we're shaming them and blaming them, not great. Bite your tongue because the next time, if it's hard and difficult and they felt bad about doing it, guess what they're not going to do? That again. So they will turn to another source. Bite your tongue. I know it's frustrating. We all have been there, but it is something that we need to, if we want them to continue shopping from us, we need to do a better job of the customer experience. What I wouldn't do, obviously we talked about the blame and shame game. The pricing, we're never going to beat them on somebody that can store a warehouse full of bulk drugs. Okay, that's just not going to happen. So let's just not talk about it. Let's not give them conflicting info. So everybody on the team needs to say the same thing. Your website, your email, your text, your team, everything needs to be consistent. So spend some time looking at that and try to make it as efficient as possible. I understand it's not always as fast as we want it to be or our clients want it to be, but we want to try to make this efficient so that the pets get the medication they need. Remember, that's our why, right? We want to make sure these pets have the medications they need. Okay. No questions so far. Let's dive into my favorite piece of this, which is the marketing aspect, because there is a ton here that we could improve upon. So, my question is, are we even competing? Because we complain about the big box companies and even the bigger pharmacies, but yet when we look at the data, it's not surprising why we're losing. So this is public data from Chewy that shows that they send an average of 1.5 emails per week. I would be stunned if a vet clinic sends 1.5 emails per year, right? Most of us send emails for reminders, and that's about it. So it's not surprising that our clients are not getting that practice name in front of them 1.5 times a week, right? Also, when we look at this, 100% promotional rates. Of course, they're talking about their sales and their great deals and things like that. Honestly, most of ours, even from our online pharmacies or veterinary online pharmacies you might use, are pretty comparable. Like free shipping over $49, or this week there's a 20% off of dental chews or something like that. Most of the time, our pharmacies have something similar. I'm not here to say that you should do promotional things for internal house things, but know that your competitors are, and they're doing it a lot, which is a little frustrating, right? We also know for the general pet care industry, so this is not just Chewy, this is, all the big box stores, anything about pet care, even Amazon pet stuff. Pet care and supplies email marketing, pet owners are getting 2.48, so 2.5 emails a week. 60% of those have some degree of sale or promo. Again, we're not even touching that on email. We're not even coming close. So this is a huge opportunity for us. It doesn't mean spam them with emails. I'm not here to tell you to email your clients every week about your pharmacy. Do not do that. But do we email them more than just their reminders in general? I think that's a great idea. I think every practice should be emailing something educational, informative, something monthly. Should we email and specifically highlight our pharmacy and our options? Yeah, a couple times a year or include it in your monthly newsletter. But don't just rely on the email reminders. They're not going to be enough. All right, key takeaway here. When it comes to our marketing, you cannot rely on just the lack of marketing we're all doing now, right? No one talks about pharmacy marketing. No one talks about this at all. And so not only do we need to start talking about it, we need to do that in a multimodal way. So I'm a doctor. I think of things like a disease, right? If you are diagnosing a dog with arthritis, you're not just throwing carprofen at them. You are talking about diet, probably diet, a lot of diet, right? They're probably fat. You're talking about exercise. You might be talking about rehab. You might be talking about supplements. You might be talking about obviously the medication, but there's usually 1 to 3 medications. Now there are some newer injectable medications. There's all these things, right? We think about diseases in a multimodal way. Marketing problems are the same. You cannot put all of your eggs in one basket. If all of your eggs are in the Facebook basket, that will fail. But if you have a few eggs in Facebook and a few eggs in email and a few eggs in your app and a few eggs on your website, you will be much more balanced and you will be able to connect with all of the breadth of people that come to your practice. So let's go multimodal and let's go consistent, right? Let's do this and do it regularly. So, how do we actually do that? So, for me, what I like to think about for many types of marketing is I think about social, of course, but honestly, sales and conversion come predominantly from email and your website. It's harder and harder to do this well and convert to sale or booking on social media, especially without ad budget, but it's still out there. Our reminders are a form of marketing. Do we do them well, or are we relying on the stock terrible reminders that come in? Your pet is overdue for board and 4DX. Nobody knows what that means, right? Our reminders could do a better job of educating and connecting for sure. In person and talking to them is still a form of marketing, even on your product and in your apps if you're using one. So we'll talk about some specific examples for each of these things. The big seven here is that people need to see something, generally 7, some studies say up to 12 times before they will take action. So they need to see your name in their inbox or on their phone or in their feed, or that you've texted them 7 times before they're like, you know what, I do need to make that appointment. You know what, I do really like these shoes that keep appearing on my social media feed. You know what? They need to see that over and over again. And so when we think about our outbound marketing of sending the reminder email once a year, you can understand why we're falling flat in many ways. So let's talk about some specific examples of how you can market your pharmacy on all the channels. So social media, I try to do this at least monthly for my practices. And the reason for this is because I want them to know we're here to help them with their pets' needs. Many pets over the age of 5, it's usually greater than 50%, are on some degree of chronic medication. All pets need at least flea and tick and heartworm prevention, dental care. There's no client that's coming that doesn't need some kind of pharmacy product. So generally speaking. So monthly at minimum, because this does appeal to our audiences. It does connect with them. Now, you can make your own content, or you can use the content. Many of the manufacturers and even the specific drugs have content that you could use. Remember, we always want to highlight the convenience and never just post. Give them a link. This is how you get this product. Give them the direct link. I'm guilty of it myself, whether it's social media or in the exam room or email. Hey, you know what product I really recommended was these specific VOHC approved dental chews, or this particular flea and tick preventative. But did we give them the link to buy it from us? If you didn't, missed opportunity. Most of the time we're telling them the products we recommend, but we're not helping them get to there. So they're relied to just Google on it, and they're going to find the path of least resistance and purchase from that source. So let's help them purchase from us. So a few examples here. Again, we're stressing the convenience. We're giving them the knowledge that they can still buy from us, but still get shipped to their door, and always, always, always give them that link. A couple other examples, you can make your own. It doesn't have to be specific or showcase your specific pharmacy, but it's certainly something that you can do. For just $1 a day, we'll unlock boosting and ad capabilities, which does let you add the Shop Now button if you want to invest in that. Certainly an option. Okay, remember that not the largest pet owning population right now is the generations probably below everybody on this webinar, which is shocking to me that there are people old enough to purchase medication for their dogs that are not in my age bracket. But they're not, and they're not all just on Facebook. They're on Instagram. So Instagram is hard because you can't put a link with each post, but you can put a link in your bio, and I would recommend that you do that with a tool like Linktree or Link in Bio, or Instagram does let you put up to 5 links in your bio now. So there are some options there, but just remember, these people are on Instagram. We need to make that accessible there as well. All right, a few examples from some of the manufacturers and some of the distributors that are out there. Even if you don't use these specifically, because sometimes I don't love them because they're not exactly branded to your practice and they're not unique to you, but they're a great springboard of ideas. So look to that, if nothing else, to use them that way. And remember, it doesn't have to be super fancy. Here is my dog, who is a shockingly, believe it or not, allergic to everything pit bull, and also a 2-time cruciate rupturer. So we're on all kinds of meds over here, but a simple picture and a link can go a long way. All right, what about your website? So this is something where a lot of people will install the widget or put the link up there, but no one can find it. So don't bury it on your website. If you need to, make sure that you're showing people how to get to it. So whether you do that in the room, before they leave, whether you make a little video and email it to people on their first time that they're purchasing, make sure your team knows also, especially the front desk, because they will get the calls that are like, where do I go on the website? And if they don't know, then they can't help the person get to it. So it's much easier to just put it as a primary menu item. So ask your website designer to do that for you. It's an easy and quick thing, but make sure that you're giving them that accessibility. If your practice is open to doing both online pharmacy and local pickup, you want to give those both options there. So a couple of examples of that for you. So a lot of clients will put this, under resources or something, but make it prominent. Put your online store right at the top or call it pharmacy. Here's another example. So some clients will add, the specific options again right in their menu and not hidden as a drop down. Another option is to use a widget. So there's lots of communication platforms out there, but many of them will allow people to not only request an appointment, but now request a refill. So these will pop up on your website. And this is one that I've been a big fan of. Okay. And then if you are having a pharmacy tab, so if you have the idea of ship to your home versus local pickup, this is what I do in my practice. This gives people those options. So if they want to get it right away and they don't want to deal with, they want to pick it up locally, that's great. It's great for us. It's better margins. But if they also just want to support our business, even though it's not as big of a cut, it's still pharmacy revenue and we're still enhancing that bond of working locally with that owner, and we're being the source of all their pets needs if they even just use our online pharmacy and have it shipped to their home. So we'll have a drop down like this. All right, here's a few analytics. So I'm a nerd, right? And I wanted to see how many people were actually using our local pickup form. And so you can see this is just a little over a year that we had in my practice over 400 people fill out a quick online form. We use a free tool called JotForm, and they just fill it out and say, okay, I want to pick up this medication. This is how much I want. And they can select how they want to be notified when it's ready, if they want a text or a call or an email. And you can see that in just over a year, more than 400 people were willing to do that. And that was something that we did with minimal investment, or it was more of an experiment for me, but certainly something that is working for our practice. So I'm happy to show you a little bit more about that in a workflow. Michelle has a question about that, and I will show you that in 1 second, Michelle. So perfect question. Thank you for the setup there. All right, let's talk about email a little bit as well. So again, remember that clients actually, there's studies that show clients do want not only the recommendations, but they want the links to buy them. So whether you're sending that via email or text. And I showed you how many people are getting emails from Chewy, and a lot of us, don't have a ton of time to do emails. We also don't have the best systems to do them. And a lot of us are worried about spamming them. And I totally get that. But 60% of people are willing to open an email if it comes from their veterinarian, compared to just 18% who just open it from whoever. So there's clearly evidence that we still have that trust with our clients. They still want to know what we have to say, and they want to learn from us, and they will open our emails. So remember that that's an option. Here's an example of a client newsletter that one of our clinics sends out, and they will just kind of do something like this monthly. They'll have maybe a pet health tip and a team spotlight, and then they will include something about the online pharmacy and give them that link to do so. So don't be afraid to start incorporating that. Another option, this is a email signature tool. If you Google HubSpot free email signature, you can make your own email signature like this. This is great for your front desk. So they can, again, every email that's going back and forth to those clients, if you're helping them or answering their questions, they can hit that button and get right to your specific pharmacy. So that's an easy addition for your front desk. Okay, what about for those of you who are using an app? Many of you might be doing that, and there's lots of apps, and I definitely don't want to recommend one over another, but something that we can do is utilize that fully. So a lot of practices we work with have an app, but haven't turned on the feature for prescriptions for some reason, or aren't familiar with it. So just know that if you're using this, most apps have this functionality where you can ask and allow clients to submit orders there. So this is an example, Vet to Pet, which has a great app that allows you to actually even just take a picture and send it, which is cool. But again, picking it for local or online. And then don't forget that print marketing is not dead. So a lot of us, kind of ignore that, but print can be helpful. So if you have signage in your, lobby or in your exam room, even if you have like we have computers in a room, so like a slideshow kind of thing. If you have a portal that will allow people to request refills or letting them know, it's okay to put those flyers up in your practice also. All right, don't forget about the power of in person. So we've talked about the importance of talking to our clients and letting them know how refills could work for them within our practice. So making sure that you're doing that at every, especially initial prescription conversation for chronic medications is the ones that I would not sleep on. But also just in person, if you've got a new client and you want them to know, hey, these are all the things we offer and we're here to help you. We love your support of a locally owned small business, things like that can be really helpful. Okay, so let's talk about workflows, like the actual getting this done, right? How do we improve upon that? And there's a lot of ways because this is pretty clunky at a lot of practices because we're not pharmacies, right? We're not designed to do this all the time. We're doing all the things, which is a good and a bad thing for our industry, but there's definitely room for improvement. And so some of the things we're going to talk about in this section are how do we get those refills done? How do we proactively recommend things? How do we send reminders? And the difference between auto ship and auto fill. So I'm a huge believer of this, and I would start by checking with your providers first. So whatever pharmacy you're using, many of them have updated things in the last few years. So you may not be taking advantage of all the functionality that they have. Lots of them have different, maybe there's a proactive recommendation, maybe there's texting, maybe there's, new social posts, maybe there are new things that you're already integrated with that you're not taking advantage of. So start with that as a key tip. But the things that we need to acknowledge are we can no longer only rely on the workflow of someone calling during business hours to get their medication. That's it. I don't know if you guys fall in this bucket. I'm pretty old, but I am still the generation that I don't I don't love talking on the phone, frankly. I also don't like being put on hold, and I don't like, I usually do phone calls like when I'm driving, like a kid to soccer or something. So, if I have to like look at a date or look at a prescription, it's not going to happen. So for me, calling is not a great idea, not the best way to go. So there are some other avenues that we should be exploring. So when we talk about refills, I want to talk about the refill request form. And I think Michelle had a question on this. So as I mentioned, at my practice, we're just using a jot form and we just let people request a refill from an online form. And so it's very simple. And let me actually go back to this. I don't know if I can. Oh, my scrolly isn't working, but basically what it says, and Michelle, if you email me after, I'll send you the link, but it has name, email, phone number, your pet's name, the medication, the quantity, how's your pet doing on this, and then how would you like to be notified? And that comes as an email to our front desk. So we have someone that handles all the online prescriptions, whether they come in through the online store or through our online form. And I'll show you a couple slides from now how we get them to this form, but we also include this in our reminders. So if we have a reminder, hey, your pet's due for an annual, if your pet needs medications and you'd like to pick up, please fill out this form and we'll have them ready for you. So it allows us to be, again, a little more proactive. Or it's on our website that they can find it as well for any normal refills. So I've got a couple of examples about that further down. One thing I also wanted to talk about from a proactive recommendation is something that this was the thing that really wowed me at the exhibit hall from our friends at Vet Talk. So they have the option for you to have a care plan for your patients that you will send them information about the disease that you're treating, the product that your doctor recommends, and the link to buy, which makes this very easy. So for the clients that are like, yeah, I need to check at home if I have any of that, or I got to check with my husband, or I got to do da 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 da. This is a good way that you can, okay, it's cool if you don't need to get it today. Let me send you this ahead of time right now So it's in their inbox and they can take action. So let me see if I can get that video to play really quickly. Hopefully you guys can still see this. All right. Let me know if you can't see this. I'm going to just play this quick video of how that would work.
Hi, I'm Ryan Salvino with Vet Talk. Um, I'm one of the co-founders. And so I wanted to just show you our new feature that we've released on Vet Talk, um, specifically called our doctor recommended product section. Um, and I wanted to give you an example here today using one of our current customers, Goose Creek. Um, so the care plan page that you're looking at is specifically for heartworm prevention. It was triggered and sent to the client via text message. The client's able to click on the link in the text and be opened up to this specific care plan. And then once they open it, they're able to watch the year-round heartworm prevention video at the top. After they watch that video, understand the importance of why heartworm prevention is needed for their pet, they then can go down and read more about the doctor recommended products. So this could be a product that was recommended during the appointment. And they would be able to learn and get just more information on it. And then once they read more information on that, they're able to then go ahead and buy the heartworm prevention directly from the hospital's online pharmacy or store. So if you do have an online pharmacy and store, we can also link and add the buy buttons into specific care plans within your Vet Talk account. So if you are interested in that, happy to show you. It's a great way to, and an easy way to allow your clients to not only read more about the doctor recommended products or the products that were recommended during the appointment, but then also able to purchase those products right from their phone.
Okay, so that's what I thought was so cool, and hopefully this is getting back to my, oh, here, Michelle, here's my my video that I was looking for, my scrolling. But before we get into that, I think my slides got a little out of order there, but the thing I wanted to highlight here is I really like that talks plan, especially if you have a patient with multiple conditions. You can see all of the recommendations and information about the products and the diseases in one spot. And they've partnered with Videos for the educational videos. So if you guys have used any videos in the past, you know that they are spot on, really engaging and educational, and is a good way to let the clients know the why behind what your recommendation is. And I think that's really helpful because I think especially if you have, you know, an older patient or a patient with a complex condition, okay, well, your pet has you know, arthritis and heart disease and needs preventative parasiticide. That's something that you know, is a lot to handle, especially if it's somebody that needs to talk about it with their family, make those decisions, and or is stressed or rushed in the exam room. I think this is a great way to give them that information. Michelle says, "Is that who I use for social media videos?" It is. I use videos quite frequently, and shout out to them. But they have a lot of really great educational content. There's a lot of they have some free content, but some you can actually customize even further to your practice. Like my practice in St. Louis, sometimes we'll have the arch behind us. You know, the scrubs are our colors and have our logo on and things like that. So, trying to get into that educational video content, as we know, video is pretty powerful. So I love the way that they paired this with information, the doctor specific recommendation, and then again that link to buy. So I think this is great. You can text this right to your clients, which is awesome. So the refill request form, Michelle, this was an example of how that form looks so that people can request that information, which is very handy. We actually put this as a QR code on our prescription. So we talked about kind of print marketing and also visual marketing. This is another solution for that because I found that no matter what we told our clients, we would still have somebody screeching in at 4:55 p.m. on a Friday, and they need 360 thyroxine quartered and right now, because they're out. And so I wanted it looking them in the face every day. So you have to see this. This is how you refill this medication, and that scans goes right to our form so that they can request that refill. And that way, if it's 10 o'clock at night, if it's the weekend, we're closed, they can refill it, they can take care of it. It's out of their to-do list, it's onto ours, and we can handle it. And they can decide if they want it local pickup or push through to online. Okay, so there's several other examples, regardless of the softwares you're using. There are now ways for the pharmacies that you are working with to give them these proactive recommendations. And I think this is huge. You don't have to use any of those services. You can make this DIY effort if you want. But again, I mentioned this earlier, if you're recommending a specific product, don't just stop there. Give them the link to buy. And this is a perfect example of where, you could send an email or text through Vet Talk, give them not only the link to buy, but again, even some more of that educational videos. So if you have chronic offenders, that still don't do this in a proactive manner, we do have, and this is just through our clinic's front desk email. We know there's a couple of them, and we will actually go ahead, they purchase, and we schedule an email to go out to them. You can do this with several of the PIMs as well, but just know that the more proactive you can be, the better experience it's going to be for the client, for the patient, and for your team whenever you can. Okay, another few proactive recommendation tips. Having your estimates prepared in advance. So we're working with several clinics now, and my own clinic does this as well. We have someone that basically that is their job, is to be they work remotely, they handle emails, they handle pharmacy refill requests, they prepare estimates for the next day's patients. So if we know a pet is coming in and we can see they might be overdue for medications of any kind, chronic meds, if they need, heartworm, flea, tick, any of that, we go ahead and get their estimate ready for not only the medical services, but also the prescriptions that they should be due for. So we can make sure that that's not missed, because the worst thing you have is somebody, I was just in for vaccines. Now I got to come back 3 days later and get, X, Y, and Z. It allows us to be a little bit more proactive and more efficient in the exam room as well. And as I mentioned on our reminders, if you're coming in for an appointment and your pet or any of the other pets in your household need medication, we'd love to prepare that ahead of time to keep your visit shorter and more efficient. Please fill out that form. And again, that's that link to that jot form I showed earlier. It's a very tiny little link and it's in the reminder. So we're being more educational and more proactive there. Okay, so our summary on being a little bit more proactive is being accessible, improve that messaging, be consistent, be clear, be kind. Marketing your pharmacy is a must. So whether you're doing that via email a couple times a year, social, monthly, on your website, not burying it, getting your front desk to talk about this a little bit more, and then our workflow. So the key takeaway there is proactivity, right? Give them the options, give them things that work for you and your team. We would, for my team standpoint on that form, it's just so much easier when we have something we can copy and paste into the medical record. We can fill it, whenever it comes in versus coming in the morning. We have 47 voicemails of people needing something. So it's just a little bit more of a convenience for them, but also for us. So you want to think about the pain points for your clients, but also your team, and adjust your workflows accordingly. Okay, so of all the things we've talked about today, a singular approach won't work for everyone. There's not one thing that definitely will fix it for everyone on this call, but hopefully I've given you some ideas that might work. I always like to end with some action steps. So the first thing is revisit the providers that you have now. So both the pharmacies that you're using, the technologies you already have. Find out how clients are finding your pharmacy. Put on your client hat. I know you have a lemon pet because you were in the veterinary industry. You have a pet on meds, I'm quite certain. So put on your pet owner hat and go to your website. How do you get a refill? If it's clunky or hard to find for you, imagine what it is for your regular clients, right? Start by making one post or one email. Send an email. Did you know we offer online pharmacy, online pickup, or local pickup? Whatever your specifics are, let them know. Let your whole client base know. Have a team discussion on what to say, how to handle those kind of specifics, and then try one proactive recommendation. And what I would encourage you to do is to look at our friends Vet Tech or Vet Talk here, and I'll show you here in just a second a little bit more information about them. So some tools that can help you. Of course, Canva can help you make graphics for your social media about your offerings in your pharmacy. I will admit that I sometimes use ChatGPT to help with the captions so that they're nice and concise. Jotform is the form that I use for our refill request. We schedule all of our social content so that way, sit down and make 12 pharmacy posts right now and then get them done and get them scheduled out onto your social media. We use Buffer, but you can also use Meta Business Suite. And then we store all of that in Google. So hopefully this has been helpful for you guys today. I see a couple questions in the chat, and I'm going to look at that and answer those now. If you need any other questions afterwards, feel free to email me at any point. But I also want to, before I answer the questions, give another shout out to my friends at Vet Talk. I love their product. I think it's super helpful. I love the proactive and I love the video component, the education paired with the convenience and the getting them to buy, keeping that revenue in my practice. So big fan. And if you scan this QR code, you'll go to their website and you can schedule a demo or start a trial. And hopefully that will be something that's useful for your practice as well. So let me take a peek at these questions and feel free to drop any more. So Jessica asks, who makes custom pill vials? Jessica, I looked at those custom pill vial lids because I thought, oh, I'll just get the QR code put on them, and it was astronomically expensive. The stickers that we're using are like $8 for 300 on Amazon and pretty easy to use. I have a whole blog tutorial on my website about how to do it and the links to them. But if you find a cheaper, more affordable, like getting them printed, let me know. But okay, Gabrielle says, oh yeah, stickers, okay. Do you have an option on the form for them to go directly to your online provider? Excuse me. So the way that we have actually restructured it now, great question, is they go to a pharmacy page and they can say, I want to pick up locally or I want to have it shipped to my door. So if they go local pickup, it goes to our form. If it goes shipped to my door, it goes to our online pharmacy. So that way they can kind of choose from there. Um, let's see, a couple highs, that's great. A great question. We just started with written prescriptions only for outside pharmacies. It's not going great so far. What are your thoughts on this? This is one of those tricky issues, and I will preface my answer by saying number one, it depends on your state. Sorry about that. Some states in your practice act may not allow you to give a written prescription or may not allow you to charge for it. It kind of depends on your state association. But that said, I am not a fan, frankly, of the written prescription option because number one, I still have to print it and get it authorized and have somebody sign it. And all I've done is tick somebody off and still make them drive in and drive back out. So I've lost the business already. And now I've made it more inconvenient for my staff and I've annoyed a client. So I understand why people want to do it because they want to discourage um, and they want to encourage these things. But frankly, I think your time and frustration is better funneled into being more proactive. Because in my experience at my own practice, which in the past we have done this, but even working with practices around the country, if you're it's not often that the client is doing that just to save money because the annoyance of having to go to Costco or go drive and pick it up and then still go to Costco, they're going to save like $3. If that's something they really need to do to keep their pet on that medication and be able to afford it, that's fine. I get it. Like, I'm not going to win that battle, right? And if the pet gets its furosemide and pimobendan, okay. Like, I would rather make the money on the service and the loyalty and the things that I can do. So the exams and things like that. I want to keep them loyal to my practice. The longevity of a client, even for the annual exam, is probably going to be worth more than what I'm losing in pharmacy revenue for the few that still choose to shop online after we've given them all these other proactive recommendations. If we're like, well, we can do that, but what we recommend is X, Y, and Z, that tends to go better. So, when my clinic switched, we had a huge team meeting about all of this and we really worked through our messaging and what we wanted to say. So, if anyone calls and asks for that, we are like, sure, we're happy to do that. We'll happily call that in just to let you know we could do the same thing for you here. We could refill it for you today. Our doctors can approve it faster. It will be in your medical record. We can also do online pickup. We could do after hours, like whatever the case may be. A lot of times people are going to, one of the big box stores because they've heard it's cheaper and they might find out it's not, or they think it's going to be more convenient. And if you stress the ability for you to keep it convenient within the practice and give them that option, then that tends to go better. You're going to lose some for sure of that business, but I think it's better to focus on not taking them off and making more workload for you. So that was a long answer to that question, but that is my answer. Might be an unpopular opinion, but we'll see. So, okay, I got that one. I don't see any other questions, but if you guys have any at any point, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, my email is it's a long email, so the easier one is hey, what's up at thesocialdvm.com, or reach out to our friends at Vet Talk. Oh, I see one more question. In Washington, it's illegal not to provide a written script if the clients request it. We had a vet sent to the board because of it. Absolutely. So this is where knowing your state's rules is important and something that you definitely need to make sure your team knows about. And there's been a lot. I feel like this is a controversial thing that will continue coming up in the coming years as if we have a recession or any of that, and people are going to be battling cost concerns. But it's one of those things you're never going to be able to please and serve everybody. So do the best you can and pick what's right for your practice and go from there. So awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for today's webinar. I had a great time. If you have any other questions, I could geek out about this all day long. So feel free to reach out to me anytime and be sure to check out that talk and we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.